She pointed at me like I was some threat and shouted, "Get on the ground or I'll take you in." One of the men beside her lifted a weapon replica, aiming it at my chest. My boots were still dusty from checking the fence line, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing on my own ranch. Karen stood behind them with her arms crossed, smiling like she finally got what she wanted. She said, "This is HOA property now. You're trespassing." I kept my hands raised, not out of fear, but because I knew things were about to fall apart for them. The man with the prop weapon was trembling like he wasn't used to holding anything official. His badge looked cheap, and the truck they arrived in had no markings of any real department. Something felt wrong, and Karen kept whispering, "Arrest him, arrest him," as if she needed to convince herself they had any real authority. The fake officer stepped closer and pressed the prop weapon against my shoulder. "Move and you're done," he said, voice shaking. I looked straight into his eyes and said quietly, "You sure you want to do that?" He didn't understand why my tone changed, but Karen noticed. Her smile faded for the first time, like she finally sensed something was off. I saw her swallow hard. She didn't know my past. She didn't know what I did before buying this ranch, and she definitely didn't know the kind of training I had, but she was about to learn. The man pretending to be an officer tried to act confident, but his shaking hands told me everything. Real officers don't shake like that. Real officers don't wait for Karen to whisper orders in their ears either. She kept pushing him forward, saying, "Do it, cuff him, he's dangerous," like she was trying to control a puppet. I lowered my hands just a few inches, and the fake officer panicked. He stepped back and nearly tripped over his own boots. Karen snapped, "What are you doing? He's just a ranch guy. Take him in." Her voice cracked, and for the first time, she sounded nervous instead of bossy. The second fake officer walked around my truck and tried putting a zip tie on my wrist like he knew what he was doing. I noticed something hanging from his belt, a keychain from a local hardware store. No real officer would wear that on duty. They were sloppy. They were pretending, and they had no idea whose ranch they were stepping onto. I let them come closer just to see how far they would go. Karen adjusted her sunglasses and hissed, "This land falls under HOA rules. Now." The board agreed. "You're being removed today." I almost laughed. Instead, I kept my voice low and said, "You sure you want to push this?" Karen froze again. Something in my calm tone made her step back. The men pretending to be officers looked at each other, unsure for the first time, like they realized they weren't in control. They still didn't know the biggest truth. I wasn't the one in danger. They were. The taller fake officer tried to regain confidence and shoved me toward my own barn door. "Stop talking and move," he said, but he couldn't hide the shake in his voice. His partner kept looking around the ranch like he expected real backup to show up at any moment. Nothing came. It was just them and me. Karen strutted behind them, trying to look powerful. "I warned you," she said. "We're taking control of this ranch today. The HOA voted. You don't live here anymore." Her voice had that sharp tone like she had been waiting weeks to say it. I took one slow step forward, then another, letting them believe they were winning. But inside I was already studying everything. Their stances, their breathing, how their fingers tightened. They had no training, no plan, just Karen's anger leading them. Then the shorter one slipped up. He reached for my other arm, and I caught a clear view under his jacket. A plastic badge, thin, crooked, so fake it was almost insulting. Karen didn't notice. She was too busy shouting, "Hurry up, he's dangerous." I saw him carrying equipment last week. I turned my head slightly and said, "Karen, you have no idea what you just started." She opened her mouth to snap back but stopped when she saw my eyes. Something in my calm hit her harder than any threat. For 1 second, she looked unsure, like she realized she crossed a line she couldn't return from. The taller fake officer swallowed hard and said, "Stop staring at her and move." I didn't move. I didn't blink. I just said one quiet sentence that made all of them freeze. "You're pointing that at a former Navy SEAL." Their faces went pale, and the real trouble was only beginning. The taller fake officer's grip loosened the moment I said it. The shorter one stepped back like I had turned into someone he never expected. Karen tried to speak, but her words stuck in her throat. Even the wind sounded louder than them. I took one slow step toward the man holding the replica. His arm shook so badly the barrel wobbled. "Don't," he whispered. "I warned you," I said softly. "Put that down before someone gets hurt. And trust me, it won't be me." He dropped it. It hit the dirt with a dull thump. The short one followed, raising his hands, looking seconds away from crying. Karen panicked and ran toward her SUV, yelling, "You're bluffing. I know real officers. You can't." She didn't finish, because right then, the sound of engines rolled across my land. Real engines, real radios, real authority. 3 sheriff trucks came down my driveway, lights flashing but no sirens, because they already knew the situation. Karen froze, caught between running away and pretending she wasn't terrified. The sheriff stepped out and pointed at the 2 men, hands where I can see them now. The fake officers didn't argue. They got on the ground immediately. One whispered, "She told us she had legal authority. She told us you were just some ranch guy." Karen tried to defend herself, but all she managed was, "They were supposed to help. He parked wrong. He ignored HOA rules." The sheriff looked at her like she'd lost her mind. "Ma'am, this ranch isn't under any HOA, never has been, and impersonating officers is a serious crime." Karen's face went pale. "I didn't know." I stepped beside her and said, "You walked onto my land with fake officers and a weapon replica over a parking complaint." She didn't answer. She couldn't. The sheriff detained her and the 2 As they were escorted to the trucks, Karen looked back at me like she finally understood the truth. This land wasn't hers. This control wasn't hers, and she had pushed the wrong man too far. I stood there quietly watching them leave. My ranch was calm again, sunset touching the fences, dust moving gently in the wind. I took a long breath and said to myself, I didn't survive Navy SEAL missions to be intimidated on my own land. Justice was done. My ranch was safe, and Karen wouldn't be causing trouble again. The end.